Hello and a big warm welcome to this presentation from the Urban Penguin. My name is Andrew Mallett, and in today's presentation we're going to take a look at systemd and what you can do with both mount files and auto mount files. Come on, let's find that command line. And a really big warm welcome to my Pixel Playground, a playground where we're working with Rocky 9.3, but pretty much it shouldn't matter what Linux distribution you're working with, as we're looking at systemd features, which we're going to find on many Linux distributions. Now, I already have a remote NFS server set up, and if I go through and clear the screen and look at then gaining administrative privileges, we can just look at the, if you like, the snail mail way of doing this. So if I go through then and mount, so I'm working as root, my remote server and :web, and I will mount it just to r/mnt directory. And of course, when I look inside of that directory, we see a whole load of web pages. Now this, to be honest, is just documentation that I've copied into a remote export on my remote system. But let's go through now and mount that. So this is what we're looking at doing, and we can do this with systemd. We can create a mount unit, and that mount unit can almost replace what we have within our etc and fs tab file. But we can go a little bit further and create an auto mount unit, so we can replace our autofs service as well. But first things first, we need to look at creating our mount unit. Now I'm going to be mounting to a directory, and we'll call it, let's say, data and web on my local system, that is the Rocky system. So of course we need to be creating that. So if I create the directory /data, now I'm only creating the data directory. I don't need to create the subdirectory web, because systemd can do that for me. So of course at the moment the data directory is going to be empty. That shouldn't surprise you, but let's check. There is no smoke, there are no mirrors, the data directory is empty. And we can go ahead now and create our unit file. So systemctl and edit. Now the unit file name must match the path. So for me, this is going to be data-web. This name is more important than you really think. This must match the path. Now, instead of using our /, we don't have a leading / and we use dashes within the name. But let's make sure that we've got the name correct, and it must be a .mount unit file. With this in place, we're then ready to edit it, but we need to tell the systemd editor that we're doing a full edit, and it will complain because there isn't an existing unit file to copy, so we force it. This is going to be a new and empty file, and it's being created in my etc systemd system directory. Now the first thing we're going to put in place, and this is pretty much for any unit file, is a unit section, and we're going to have our description here. And we can put something that probably vaguely describes what we are mounting. So I'm just going to go here, say mount my web stuff. We could give a little bit more thought, but this is just a demonstration. Importantly, we're putting in the mount section, and inside of our mount section, we have the what. So this is what are we mounting? So 192.168.56.101:web. Where are we mounting it to? And this is where the unit file will complain when it tries to start if it doesn't match to the unit file name. So /data/web, the unit is called data-web.mount. So the name has to match the where. The type, so it's NFS4. And of course we can put in our options. And we could customize this, but I'm just going to leave it as defaults. Now, I could also go through and put in an install. If I put in the install section, then we can enable this to auto mount when the system starts up. But if you think, if I've got 20 remote mounts, I don't want 20 remote mounts starting up. So I'm leaving the install section out of it. We can save that and then go through and restart the systemctl daemon because we've changed files in the back end. Now, it's always good to check that the file itself is working. So let's go through then and do a start. Remember, we can't enable it, but then data-web.mount. And now when we list the contents of the data directory, we see the systemd daemon has created the web subdirectory. And inside of the web subdirectory, we've obviously got the contents of the share. We can go through then and stop. So all of this is simple stuff, but it's not really exciting me too much because you think, well, okay, who's going to be starting and stopping the mount? We want this auto-mounted, much in the same way as our autofs would work. So to enable that, we need to create an Automount Unit File with the same name, so we can then go through and create a data-web.automount. And look at that, that's not too painful, isn't it? So the name is the same, just the suffix that is changing from .mount to .automount. We know what we're going to do now. We're going to go through and create our unit section, throw in some form of description. And again, I'm not really too bothered about this. Obviously, trying to get typing correct would help, but it doesn't really matter for the moment. Obviously, in your own, spend a little bit more time getting it all tidy. And then we have our auto mount section. And again, this is where the hard work comes into play. We can put in the where. So this is going to be then our /data/web. The next element that we put in is our timeout idle sec. Now, as the name suggests, we can put in the number of seconds, but we can also go through and put in something like 10 min if that's easier. The idea being is we can automatically unmount this. So we're saying after 10 minutes. So 10 minutes after the directory has become idle, it will be unmounted. The important element we're adding to this is the install section. Where we're adding the install section, we're specifying that we can then enable our service. So then wanted by, and then our multi-user .target. So we enable this service then will start on boot, and it then monitors for us accessing the directory. It's going to look for a corresponding file called automount.mount, because obviously we've put in the where, but we haven't put in the what. So there has to be a corresponding mount file as well. So let's go through and save this. Having made our change now, we can be a little bit clever using Control and R, and searching for our reload can easily get us back to our systemctl daemon reload, because we need to run this to tell the system about the new unit file. Now, that's not going to change anything in our file system. So as I go through and take a look at the data-web directory, it is still unmounted. We can go ahead and enable our service, or at least our auto-mount file, so it will start on boot, and we can go through and specify to do it now. But just loading our file and starting our file now, so this is our auto-mount file, again, that's not going to change the mount status. So if I double check mount -t and NFS4, we still don't have any NFS4 mounts. It's going to be auto-mounted as soon as I access it. So if I go back now and list the content of the directory, it was auto-mounted for us. And of course, now I can see with mount -t NFS4 that it is now mounted. So this really can take the pride and place and replace our auto-mount service, allowing us to be able to access our remote mounts really easily and on demand. It's also going to time out after the 10 minutes. So once I've finished with it, and if I don't access the directory within another 10 minutes, it's going to be automatically unmounted for me.
All that is left to say is thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then you are probably sadder than I first thought. For more of this drivel, please subscribe, like and comment to @TheUrbanPenguin.